At 6 a.m., the steel doors of the Altiplano Federal Social Readaptation Center groaned shut with the confidence of a nation that believed it had finally built something escape-proof. Cameras blinked from every corner. Floodlights burned white against razor wire. The walls, thick, layered concrete reinforced with steel, were engineered to withstand earthquakes, explosions, and desperation. Guard towers stood like sentinels against the dry hills of Almoloya de Juarez, rifles resting on sandbags, scanning for movement that would never come. This was the prison designed to hold the most dangerous man in Mexico. This was the cage built for Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán. He had been here before. In 2001, he slipped out of another high-security facility, Puente Grande, hidden, according to legend, in a laundry cart. That story traveled the world. It embarrassed a government. It transformed a drug lord into a myth. 14 years later, on February 22, 2014, when Mexican Marines stormed a beachside condo in Mazatlan at 6:40 a.m. and pulled him from behind a bathroom door, there was no applause, only resolve. This time would be different. This time, the infrastructure would not fail. Altiplano was supposed to be untouchable. Built in the 1990s with American consultation, its corridors were narrow, its cells isolated, its surveillance constant. In Cell 20, in a special wing reserved for high-risk inmates, the lights never truly dimmed. A camera fixed above the steel door watched every movement. Guards monitored him 24 hours a day, logging his pacing, his meals, the exact minute he stepped into the shower. At 9 p.m., final count. At midnight, count again. At 2 a.m., another glance at the monitor. He was there, seated on the edge of his bunk, staring at the floor. Outside the prison, headlines declared triumph. Inside, silence thickened. El Chapo was short, compact, unassuming in posture. He shuffled when he walked. He spoke softly. But his organization, the Sinaloa Cartel, moved billions of dollars in narcotics across continents. His reach stretched from the Sierra Madre Mountains to Chicago warehouses and European ports. Even behind reinforced concrete, his name traveled freely. The prison could confine a body. It had never successfully contained an empire. The government tightened protocols, no contact visits, limited phone calls, rotating guards to prevent familiarity. Engineers inspected the floors. Sensors were checked for unusual vibrations. The assumption was simple. If escape ever came, it would come from the outside. An assault on the walls, an explosion, a helicopter swooping over the yard. The threat was vertical. They did not look down. At 8:52 p.m. on July 11, 2015, the camera in cell 20 captured a routine image. El Chapo pacing, hands clasped behind his back. He stopped near the shower area, a narrow partition offering minimal privacy. At 8:59 p.m., he stepped behind the half wall. The camera's angle, by design, did not fully see inside the shower stall. It respected a line between surveillance and modesty. At 9 p.m., guards performed the nightly count. The monitor showed the stall. He had done this before, lingered in the shower. At 9:05 p.m., still no movement. A guard leaned closer to the screen. "He's probably washing," someone muttered. The assumption was ordinary. The moment passed. At 9:14 p.m., unease crept in. The camera still showed nothing but tile and shadow. A supervisor radioed the corridor officer. At 9:17 p.m., the steel door to cell 20 swung open. The stall was empty. For a breathless second, the room felt staged, like a trick of perspective. The bed was made. Slippers placed neatly on the floor. The drain cover in the shower had been removed. Beneath it, a square hole cut cleanly through reinforced concrete descended into darkness. The prison, built to hold El Chapo, had been defeated by a rectangle no wider than a suitcase. Below the cell, 10 meters underground, a tunnel stretched for more than a mile, 1.5 kilometers, running from the prison's foundation to a half-constructed house beyond the perimeter wall. It was not a crude burrow. It was engineered. The passage stood 5 feet high, supported by timber beams. A rail system ran along the floor, mounted with a modified motorcycle on a cart to transport dirt and men. Ventilation pipes fed fresh air through the claustrophobic corridor. Electric lighting illuminated the path. At intervals, ladders and escape hatches suggested rehearsal. This was not improvisation. It was infrastructure. Investigators would later estimate the tunnel took months to build, perhaps a year. Tons of soil had been removed without detection. Blueprints of the prison, its layout, its blind spots, the exact coordinates of Cell 20 had been studied with precision. The tunnel emerged directly beneath the shower, within inches of the drain. It was as if someone had measured from inside the cell. At 9:32 p.m., sirens wailed across the compound. Guards fanned out across corridors that had already lost their meaning. Roadblocks formed along highways. Helicopters lifted into the night sky. The president addressed the nation hours later, promising accountability. The camera in Cell 20 continued to record an empty stall. In the days that followed, Mexico learned the dimensions of the tunnel the way one studies the blueprint of a betrayal. The entrance shaft was reinforced with wood and steel. The motorcycle ran on a modified rail to carry both excavated earth and the fugitive himself. Engineers marveled at the precision. How had the diggers known exactly where to surface? How had vibration sensors not detected the work? How had truckloads of soil vanished into the countryside unnoticed? The answer did not lie solely in concrete. Altiplano's strength was architectural, but its vulnerability was human. Corruption had long seeped into the institutions meant to contain men like Guzmán. Guards were arrested. Officials questioned. Some claimed ignorance. Others cited intimidation. The cartel's resources were vast, its intelligence network disciplined. To dig a tunnel that precise required more than laborers with shovels. It required knowledge, timing of patrols, camera blind spots, perhaps even access to construction plans. Infrastructure can be calculated. Loyalty cannot. By 10 p.m. that night, El Chapo was gone, swallowed by earth and distance. Somewhere along the tunnel's path, he mounted the rail cart, crouched beneath wooden beams, and traveled through a passage carved in secret beneath the state's most secure facility. Dirt brushed his shoulders. Electric bulbs flickered overhead. At the far end, in the unfinished house, a ladder rose toward a hatch concealed beneath tile. A pickup truck waited beyond the door. By dawn, he had disappeared into the same mountains that had once sheltered him as a young trafficker in Sinaloa. The manhunt that followed was relentless. Checkpoints multiplied. Intelligence units tracked whispers across borders. At 4:30 a.m., days later, Marines raided ranches and safe houses, always minutes too late. The embarrassment was global. News anchors replayed the animation of the tunnel again and again, each time tracing the line from shower stall to open field, as if repetition might shrink it. But the story did not end underground. For 6 months, El Chapo remained a ghost, moving between rural hideouts, relying on couriers and loyalists. Surveillance tightened around his associates. The government adapted, tracing communications through digital signals rather than bribes and informants. In October 2015, a raid in the mountains nearly captured him. He slipped away through drainage tunnels in the town of Los Mochis, injuring his face in the escape. Each evasion added another layer to his legend, and another wound to the credibility of the state. At 4:45 a.m. on January 8, 2016, Mexican Marines breached a safe house in Los Mochis. Gunfire erupted in the pre-dawn dark. By 6:40 a.m., Joaquín Guzmán was in custody again, escorted to a helicopter, his face bruised, his shirt stained with dirt and sweat. Cameras flashed as he was transferred back to Altiplano, the same prison whose concrete he had already defeated. This time, the government moved quickly. Within a year, he was extradited to the United States, delivered to a courtroom in Brooklyn where no tunnel could reach. In 2019, he would be sentenced to life imprisonment in a federal supermax facility in Colorado, a place carved into rock, monitored by layers of surveillance that bordered on isolation from the human race itself. But the tunnel remained. It remained in photographs and blueprints, in court documents and investigative reports. It remained as a question carved through concrete. How does a prison designed with every visible defense fail against something unseen? The walls had held, the towers had stood, the cameras had blinked. And beneath them all, Earth had shifted quietly for months. Altiplano still stands in the highlands west of Mexico City. The guard towers are manned. The gates close at 6 a.m. with the same metallic certainty. Yet somewhere beneath cell 20, the memory of that rectangular void lingers. A scar in the foundation. Reinforced concrete can resist force. It cannot resist patience combined with precision. Armed towers can deter an assault from the sky. They cannot see beneath their own shadow. And a hidden tunnel, lit by bare bulbs and guided by measurements whispered through corrupt channels, can turn the most secure prison in the country into a passageway. On the night of July 11th, 2015, at 8:59 p.m., a man stepped into a shower stall and vanished. The camera kept recording. The guards kept watching. The concrete kept standing. And somewhere in the darkness below, infrastructure met corruption and lost.